I am a Jewish wife, mother, and grandmother, a retired teacher, and an alcoholic in recovery with more than 30 years of sobriety. I used to think I couldn't really be an alcoholic because I wasn't a Skid Row bum. I didn't have any DUIs, I never went to work drunk or drank on the job, and I didn't lose my family, my job, or my life. However, I did suffer, and so did my family. I have learned that alcoholics come in all sizes, shapes, and backgrounds. I have been through the very worst and the very best things in my life during my sobriety. I have learned how to live life on life's terms, a day at a time.
I was a deer caught in the headlights. I have a daughter. She called me from college 7 years ago and said she needed to check herself into rehab. I was shocked and astounded that her normal drinking and drug use was out of control. Several inpatient and outpatient treatment programs have led to limited periods of abstinence, but not long-term sobriety. Next month, she will graduate with a master's degree in education and will embark on a new career, teaching elementary school. She's involved with family, especially her elderly grandmother. She had over 100 friends at her bat mitzvah, but now has few friends. She seems good at times, while abrasive at other times. I'm holding my breath to see if her changed behaviors will last, or if I'll get that awful phone call again. But this time, it might not be from her asking to check into rehab. It might be the police, or worse yet, the coroner. The experience with my daughter propelled me to action. I became a leader in my Jewish community, committed to doing all I can to increase awareness and resources to address the addiction epidemic so families can get the support, understanding, and compassion they need.
I'm a professional musician who drank and drugged his way to the bottom. When I had every opportunity to make it to the top, by the time I got sober, no one wanted me around. Loving, well-meaning people said things like, "If you just get sober, you'd be okay." I knew they were wrong. I was okay as long as I wasn't sober. There came a time, however, when it just wasn't fun anymore, but I just couldn't stop. I'm not a specialist. I do anything I could get my hands on. I was addicted to heroin for many years. I went to visit my cousins, nice religious folks, 5 kids. And while I was there, I had a seizure in the kitchen and blacked out. When the ambulance came, I caused a scene in the neighborhood and was taken to the hospital in handcuffs, kicking and screaming. My brother, who at that time was 3 years sober, took me in with the caveat that I get a job and go to AA meetings. I got a sponsor and worked the program. Even though I relapsed after some years of sobriety, I soon got sober again. It's been 6 years now, and I'm back in the music business with my focus on serving others and my community.
I am the father of a son who struggled mightily with substance use disorder. Unfortunately, in 2016, he succumbed to this heartbreaking disease of addiction at 24 years young. He was 3,000 miles away from us, just out of sober living, and had been missing for 9 days. After enduring the inconceivable horror of having a missing child who is battling a serious illness, my husband and I got the phone call every parent dreads. Our son was dead from an overdose. We never imagined this could happen in our family. Our son went to a Jewish day school and was brought up with love in a wonderful area. But I now know that none of that matters, and it did indeed happen to our family. The director at the Jewish high school our son attended encouraged me to remember the wonderful young man he was, rather than focus on what we went through. It was her love and ability to see what a beautiful soul he was that empowered our family to keep his memory alive and to establish a fund in his name to bring addiction awareness programming to our Jewish community. Life will never be the same, however. Through working on ending stigma and telling our story, we are learning to cope, survive, and even put some joy back into our lives.
A few weeks ago, I finished the new Barbara Kingsolver novel, Demon Copperhead, if any of you have read it. I just love her work, and this book was no exception. It's a modern retelling of David Copperfield, set in the mountains of southern Appalachia, of a boy born to a teenage single mother in a single-wide trailer. It's a story of addiction and poverty of entire generations of communities devastated by the opioid crisis. And I was chatting about this book with a friend. Someone happened to overhear our conversation as she was walking by, and she stopped and piped in, "Good thing we don't have to worry about that stuff here." And I've been replaying this conversation back since that day, knowing that the service was on the horizon, wondering how we as a community have failed if people really believe that substance use disorders are not a Jewish problem. Each of the people in those beautiful narratives read by our clergy tonight could be any one of us. They are real stories shared by real Jews, each of whom is committed to showing that this indeed affects us too. And if it felt jarring to hear them and to see ourselves in these stories, in these people who look and sound like us, and our parents, our children, our neighbors, who indeed are us, and our parents, our children, our neighbors, then I'm glad you're here. In fact, I'm really glad that all of you are here tonight. And I'm glad you're here for many reasons. First, Shabbat with you all is such a bright part of my week. I know so many of you feel the same way. It's a sacred place to recover, to rest, to pray, to be together without judgment, to offer support, and also receive it, to pray for healing for ourselves and our loved ones, and to mourn our losses. And also, I'm glad you're here because tonight we're offering a sacred place to recover, to rest, to pray, to be together without judgment, to offer support and receive it, to pray for healing for ourselves and our loved ones, and to mourn our losses for those in our community touched by substance use disorders, which includes so many of us in this room tonight. Substance use disorders refer to a group of conditions characterized by problematic patterns of substance abuse, generally with regard to illicit drugs or prescription medication and or alcohol, leading to impaired control, physical dependence, social problems, and risky use, or a combination of any of the above. And a new study was released just this year by the Department of Health and Human Services, showing that a staggering 46.3 million people aged 12 or older, nearly 17% of the population, meet this criteria for having a substance use disorder. More than 100,000 people a year are dying from overdoses. It's more than the number of gun deaths and car crash victims combined. And that number has risen dramatically since 2020, along with the catastrophic decline in mental health, and the two go hand in hand. Life expectancy is declining in the United States for the very first time in generations, largely as a result. 17% of the population. I want you to hear that number again because I couldn't believe it when I read it for the first time. 17% seems just crazy. And yet for some reason, our precious community, our fierce and loving community, still stigmatizes addiction in a way that often leaves families and individuals feeling lost and isolated and ashamed. Having a substance use disorder is not a moral failing, and to claim that it is ignores the realities of addiction. When we treat it as such, even though we know better, it makes it so much harder to ask for help, to talk to our friends and families about what we're going through, and to reach out for support. This week in our Torah, we reach the end of the book of Exodus. And instead of talking about the text itself, I want to tell you about our tradition when we finish a whole book.
After we chant the last sacred words, it's customary to recite Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek, which is then repeated back by the congregation. It's sometimes translated as like, congrats, or we did it, but what it really means is be strong, and let us strengthen one another. We're called upon to be strong by our Torah, by our tradition, to persevere, to have courage, to hold fast. But no matter how strong an individual is, no matter how strong their loved ones are, and believe me, these are the strongest people on earth, it's not enough. And according to our faith, it should not be. We are not meant to be alone, each of us shouldering our own burdens and walking our own paths. Because we are really good at taking care of each other in this community. We bring meals and make phone calls. We recommend doctors and call each other to check in. We watch each other's kids and make hospital visits and sit on the couch with our friends holding their hands when someone they love is sick. But when someone is experiencing a substance use disorder or an addiction to alcohol or opioids or Adderall or the like, so often it's kept a secret, or if it's not, quite often, nobody is showing up on their doorstep with soup. We have to strengthen one another, not just when it's easy or when we're suffering from a disease that carries less stigma. We've got to be there to support each other emotionally and physically. We've got to do our part to destigmatize substance use disorders and to provide all of the love and the care that we offer to those in need of healing without hesitation. And we are blessed in this community with a network of organizations doing this holy work, and I want to make sure that you know about them, so that while you are out there strengthening your friends and family members, or in the event that you yourself need help, you know where to find it. And if you'd like to know more about any of these organizations, we have some tables set up outside during the ONEG for you to ask questions and meet some of our representatives. So there's JARA, which you heard about a little bit, the Jewish Addiction Resource Alliance. This is a collaborative group in our community committed to offering speakers and education, prevention, intervention, treatment, and support for individuals, families, and community members, and also Jewish organizations which are impacted by substance use and addictions. There's the Jamie Daniels Foundation. You heard a little bit about Jamie from Becca tonight. Jamie Daniels Foundation provides life-saving resources, guidance, and support to those struggling with substance abuse, focusing on children and young adults, doing absolutely incredible work on college campuses nationwide. We've got Jewish Family Service, the addiction experts at Henry Ford Maple Grove, the Tri-Community Coalition, and the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalitions, all of whom build community partnerships to reduce high-risk behavior and promote mental health and wellness. And you have us. You have your clergy and your temple, our Sosnick Family Life Center. We are here for you too, to listen without judgment, to provide spiritual guidance, and to connect you to these amazing experts, many of whom have walked the same path and who are fully committed to helping people find the help they need so they can live and heal and survive and thrive. So let's try it together now. I'd really love for us at this point in our yearly cycle, at the end of this special book, to make a commitment together, to persevere and to hold our heads up high and to walk our own paths with strength and dignity, and also to strengthen each other by showing up, by educating ourselves and others, and by showing our love and commitment to this community. So I'm going to sing it first. Remember, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek, and then you sing it back to me. Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. Today and every day, friends, be strong. Be strong, sorry. And let us strengthen one another. And together we all say, you guys got me there with your singing.